Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Krawler deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one because it was actually a part of the top 5 decks that you could build for under $5 list. Now this deck is a little bit more expensive because I have kind of tricked it out a little bit, but if you guys want to know what you can change it out with, you can change out any of the cards in this deck, and we'll talk about that as we go through the deck as well for some cheaper staples. And if I don't cover it, you can definitely comment down below and ask me for alternatives for the cards, and I can totally help you guys out with that. So before we get into this guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month as your patron along with test hands. And if you guys haven't seen that top 5 list, you definitely should, because it was really interesting for budget players that are looking for some really good budget decks like Crawlers and some other cool decks that we're going to be doing on the channel as well. If you guys want to check out that list, you definitely should. It is on the channel already. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Krawler Spine. So Krawler Spine is basically Maneater Bug. And what this card does is if this card is flipped face up, you get to target one monster on the field and destroy that card. Then all of your Crawlers also share a very easy common effect that if this face up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, then you can special summon 2 Krawler monsters with different names from your deck in face down defense position. Now all of your Crawlers share that ability in the deck. Every single Krawler shares that ability that they special summon 2 additional ones if they leave the field by an opponent's card effect. We then play 3 copies of Krawler Receptor. If this card is flipped face up, you get to add 1 Krawler monster from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty good effect just to give you an additional monster in your hand. We then play 3 copies of the Krawler Gil. Gila is really good too because if this card is flipped face up, you get special summon 1 Krawler monster from your hand or graveyard in face up attack or face down defense, which helps you swarm the field just that much more. We then play 2 copies of Krawler Axon. Axon is really good too because you get to target 1 spell or trap on the field and destroy it when it's flipped face up. And then I play a single copy of Krawler Dendrite. Dendrite is kind of neat because it's Foolish Burial, because when it's flipped face up, you can send a monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then I play a single copy of Ravener. Ravener is kind of neat because if it's flipped face up, you get to target 2 Krawler monsters in your graveyard and add them back to your hand. So it's an overall really good card just to have you an additional monster that can grab you other Crawlers from the graveyard. I then play a single copy of the Desidue Krawler X. Desidue Krawler X is really good because it's a really good boss monster that when an opponent's monster activates a card or effect that targets this face down monster, quick effect, you can change this card into face up defense position and go, hey, what's up? Why are you targeting me? And then it has the ability that you negate the activation if you do destroy that card. And after this card was flipped face up while in the main monster zone, then you get to negate the effects of the activated effects of your opponent's monsters on the field. And if this card on the field is destroy battle or by card effect, you can add from your deck to your hand 1 level 9 monster with a different original attribute. We don't play any other level 9 monsters, so that effect never really comes up. Basically, it's here as a big 3000 wall that can special summon itself out really easily with your other Krawler monsters, and it's just an overall really good card. We then play 2 copies of World Legacy World Armor. World Legacy World Armor is pretty good because when a monster is flipped face up, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is normal special summon, you can add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. And if this card is normal summoned or set card on the field, quick effect, you can target 1 face-up monster that was special summoned from the extra deck and return both it and this card to your hand, which does actually come up sometimes. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Now, the Ash Blossoms are basically here just to stop your opponent from all sorts of different shenanigans, and I will say to you guys, you can change these out. I play Ash Blossom in a lot of my decks because it is the most generic, basically hand trap. You can change this out if you want to for something that's a little bit more budget, like a copy of 3 Effect Veilers or 3 Forbidden Chalice or 3 copies of Magic Cylinder. You can change it out for that, or 3 copies of Mirror Force. If you want to change it out for that, it is a very budget option if you're looking to make a deck like I mentioned in the list previous. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good because Terraforming just searches your copy of your World Legacy and Shadow really easily. I play a single copy of Scapegoat. Scapegoat is kind of a card that fell to the wayside because a lot of people didn't want to play it as a one of, but in this deck it's really good because you're playing an Earth deck and you can special summon out a bunch of tokens, which this deck just thrives on getting tokens on the field with stuff like this and Wormbait to be able to go into all your different Krawler Link monsters. And also this card helps out a lot because you can use it to basically make an instant link 4, which is super nice. We then play 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Now, the Pot of Desires, I would probably say these are budget. I think they're like $1 a piece for the rare ones out of Toon Chaos. So you can probably still manage these, but if you don't want to play these, you can play like an Upstart Goblin maybe, or maybe some more traps and make it a little bit more of a trap build. You can then play 3 copies of World Legacy and Shadow. The World Legacy and Shadows are really good because all Krawler monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense, and then once per turn, you can special summon a level 2 or lower insect monster from your hand in face up or face down defense. And when your flip monster is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's monster, you can send that opponent's monster to the graveyard. Now, this card is really good. This card is very important for the deck. It gets you additional monsters on the field, and it's overall an amazing field spell. I love this card. This card was actually, the artwork of it was why I even picked this deck up to begin with. We then play 3 copies of World Legacy Survivor. World Legacy Survivor is a very interesting card because it looks exactly, to me, with how dark the card artwork is, it looks exactly like World Legacy and Shadow. But basically what this card does is you excavate the top 5 off your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 excavated Krawler monster or World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. And then also you return the remaining cards to the graveyard, or you return the remaining cards to the graveyard. Otherwise, shuffle all the cards into the deck. And then you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except for link monsters, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, which is fine because the majority of the stuff we're playing in the extra deck is link anyways. We're then playing 3 copies of Wormbait to round out the spells. The Wormbait is basically here because if you control an insect, you can special summon 2 insect tokens to your side of the field, level 3, but you can't special summon anything that's level 3 or level 4 for the rest of the turn, which is fine because we don't special summon anything that's level 3 or level 4 in this deck. You're basically just using this to get out 2 tokens on your side of the field to give you a free link too. So that's it for the spells, guys. Oh, and these are also earth tokens, which comes in really handy for the extra deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of World Legacy Pawns. World Legacy Pawns is really good because it has the ability that you can target a face-down monster you control, change it to face-up attack or face-up defense, and then you can shuffle 1 Krawler monster. You can shuffle 1 Krawler monster in the graveyard into the main deck, and then target 1 face-up monster you control and change it to face-down defense, which is really good because it basically lets you flip-flop your monsters and basically give you that ability to activate them without them being attacked into, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of World Legacy Mind Meld. Mind Meld is really good. Like, this is a really great trap. So basically what Mind Meld does is when an opponent's monster activates a card or effect, or when your opponent's monster activates its effect, well, you control a Krawler monster, you can activate the effect that becomes return 1 face-up Krawler that you control, or return 1 face-up monster your opponent controls to the hand, which basically bounces your Krawler by an opponent's card effect, and then basically makes it so you get to special summon 2 more Krawlers, which is really good. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a link monster on the field and special summon 1 Krawler monster from your hand deck or graveyard to a zone that monster points to in face down defense. This card has literally no downsides, and I absolutely love it. We're then playing 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. The Storming Mirror Forces are just really good at dealing with your opponent's plays because the Storming Mirror Forces basically stop your opponent from attacking into you when you don't want them to. So I really like playing 3. I really feel like 3 is the way to go in this deck because it's going to stop your opponent from snowballing against you and overall just stopping them from attacking into you with a whole board like a Dragoon's board and stuff like that. If they already negate something like a World Legacy Pawn, then you can basically use the copy of Storm Mirror Force when they attack to shuffle all their monsters back into their hand, which is really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Krawler. Krawler is basically the big boss monster, and I will mention you guys too, I'm only playing 2 each of each Krawler link monster, so if there's anything in the extra deck that you think is too expensive, you can drop it out and be able to play more of the Krawler Krawler link monsters. So for 2 Krawler has a really neat effect that if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while its owner controlled it, then you can target 1 Krawler monster, or you can target 2 Krawler monsters with different names in your graveyard and special summon them in face down defense. And you can apply these effects based on the number of Krawlers you currently control. Either all monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense if you control 2. If you control 4, your opponent cards and effects cannot be activated during the battle phase. And if you control 6, the monsters you control can attack directly. So basically, if you get 6, you win. We then play 2 copies of the other Krawler link monster. This card's really good because you want to play this card because 2 copies of it is fine because it takes 2 earth monsters to summon this, and Krawler monsters card points 2 cannot be destroyed by battle. It gains 300 attack and defense, or they all gain 300 attack and defense. It can make 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, which is really, really good. And it also has the ability that if this card leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect or by battle, then you get to special summon. You target 2 Crawlers in the graveyard with different names and special summon those targets in face down defense. And then I play 2 copies of the other Krawler Link monster, which is also really good. Basically, you want to make it where you have the Krawler pointing down, and then you summon these in the other zones to give all your other Krawler monsters added abilities, which is pretty good. So this makes it so that Krawler monsters cannot be destroyed by battle, and they gain 300 attack and defense. And if this card, or if they battle your opponent's monsters, any battle damage to your opponent is doubled as well. And if this card on the field is destroyed by an opponent's battle or by card effect, then you get to target 2 Crawlers in the graveyard, and you get to special summon those targets and face down defense. So it's really good. You never get a drawback from this card because you're basically going to always replace it, which is pretty good. I then play a single copy of Access Code Talker, which you can drop for Borreload. If you want to drop it for Borreload, you don't have to play the access code. I just play it because I have it. You can change it for a Boral Sword. You can change it for a Borreload. It's totally up to you what you change it out for. You don't have to play it. We then play a single copy of Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax. This card is really good. I highly recommend that you play this card. It's really easy to get. It's like, I think this card's like $3 right now. So this card's really easy to summon to your field. And it's an overall really amazing like lore card in the entire like scheme of things. So this card is actually really needed for the deck, and is an overall really good card. We play a single copy of Draco Masters of the Tenyi. Draco Masters of the Tenyi is pretty good for the Link arrows. And it also has the ability that it can't be destroyed by battle with effect monsters. And if you control no effect monsters, you can destroy effect monsters your opponent controls up to the number of non-effect monsters you control or in your graveyard, which your tokens count as normal monsters. So if you summon out scapegoat tokens under this, then you get to pop 4 cards, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Papillon. Papillon is really good too because it gains 2 attack for each counter on it. And then it also has the ability, if this card is link summoned, you can place 1 counter for each insect monster used to link summon this card, which is always going to be 3. And then quick effect, you can remove 1 counter from this card and then special summon 1 level 4 or lower insect monster from your graveyard, which is also pretty good. We then play a single copy of Unicorn. Unicorn's also very budget because I got a rare reprint, and this card basically lets you spin stuff on the field, which is pretty good. Phoenix, kind of the same thing, pop spells and traps. 1 copy of the Inzektor Link monster. The Inzektor Link monster comes in handy sometimes because it helps you put your Crawlers back into the deck. 1 copy of IP Masquerade. You don't have to play IP, but I do recommend it if you can. I would play the IP. You can change it out again for any of the Krawler XZ monsters, like a 3rd copy of Krawler. And then we play the same copy of Mrs. Radiant. You can also change out the IP for a 2nd Mrs. Radiant, because the Mrs. Radiant makes your Earth monsters go up by 500 attack and defense, which is pretty good. Now, the only reason I'm playing Access Code Talker is because I'm playing Earth, Light, Wind, Dark, Fire in this deck. So I'm playing pretty much all the elements except for Wind. So you have all of, well, no, you have Wind. You have them all in here pretty much except Water. So it's really easy to actually pop off with Access Code and get you 5 pops on this card. So it's why I'm playing this card in the deck at all. But you don't have to. You can change it out for Borreload or Boral Sword and cut down on the cost of the deck by a lot. So that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun budget deck that you can basically summon some amazing Krawler monsters to your side of the field and overwhelm and swarm your opponent. It's very annoying to play against, and it's super fun to play. So I highly recommend that you guys are looking for a very budget deck core to pick up. You can definitely pick up Crawlers for less than 5. Which is really nice. And it's just an overall fun deck to play. Like, it's really interesting because you're basically playing Maneater Bug deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can come part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.